So sorry, for some reason I got cut off there. So I'm going to read the whole number and then put my decimal label at the end. So 531,022 millionths. So my decimal in word form would be 531,000, right? Just like I have 1,000 here, we still are going to put that 1,000 label in our decimal. 531,022 millionths. So I read my entire number. This thousandth is where we're going to kind of cut off and put that little practice comma. It doesn't go there in the standard form, but that's where it's going to go in our word form. And then we finish out our word and put the label. Okay? Now, if we are talking about a number that has something before the decimal, let's say we have 360. What we would do with that word form is put that 360 before and put and before we start to read our decimal. So we're going to have the same label for our decimal. We would just go right here and put 360 and 531,022 millionths. We separate our before the decimal and after the decimal with that very, very important and. Okay? So, when we're talking about expanded form, we're going to practice it just like we did before and break it up into each section. So, I'm just going to look at my decimal part for this number, for this part. And just like we talked about with expanded form before the decimal, you put zeros after everything. For this part, you only need to put zeros between your decimal and the number that you're talking about. So if I'm doing expanded form down here, we would say 0.5. You always have to have this 0 and the 1s for when you're writing decimals. Plus 0 point, and we're going to put a 0 here to hold that place and push our hundredths over to his spot. So this is 5/10 plus 3/100 plus 0 point. We need 2 zeros to get this 1 to his spot. 0, 0, 1 for 1,000th. Plus 0 point. We need 1, 2, 3. We actually don't need to put anything for this 0, right? If we add 0 to our number, we don't need to put anything. So we're just going to go to our next one. So we need 4 zeros to get this 2 to his spot. 1, 2, 3, 4 for 200,000ths. And then last but not least, we're going to do 5 zeros to get our 2 to our millionths. This is our expanded form of just the decimal. Don't worry about this part. I know you guys have got expanded form for before the decimal. Now, if you have a problem that has that number, make sure that you put those numbers first because they are whole numbers. So we would add 300 plus 60 plus, and that would go before our decimal for our expanded form. Okay? That is what we're doing for today, talking about this. The only other piece that you need to know is this fancy new word called equivalent. We've talked a lot about equal to, but equivalent, oops, if I can spell, means the exact same. Okay? So you will see some questions today that say write two decimals that are equivalent to the given decimal. So we're going to practice this in just a second, but if I have 7 and 32 hundredths, an equivalent decimal would be if I added any number of zeros after this. I could add 1, I could add 4. Those are all going to be equivalent or the exact same as my original decimal. It's the same exact amount, okay? So let's do a couple practices. Let me get a piece of paper here. All right, so we're going to do a practice here. So on your assignment today, you need to write these answers in order to get some points. This tells me that you watched my video, you did your best, and you are doing your best to learn before just jumping into the assignment. So number 1, you're going to have number 1, number 3, and number 5 on your slide, okay? So number 1 says, write the word form for each number and give the value of the underlying digit. So for number 1, we have this number here, and my 3 is underlined. So my word form would be 4 and 737 thousandths. That's my word form. And the value of this 3 is going to be 3 hundredths. Oops, I forgot my TH. 3 hundredths. So in your number 1 blank on your slide today, I want you to just write 3 hundredths. Okay? Just write 3 hundredths, exactly like that for credit. Okay? Another problem that you guys might see today is taking an expanded form and putting it in standard form. So we've got, let me write it out here. All right, so let's break this down. We've got 6 before a decimal point. There's no decimal point coming before that one. Then we have a decimal point. Then directly after the decimal point, I have another 6. Then this 0 takes that place for the 6 for our expanded form. So then I would write my 3, my 7, and my 1. So that's what you need to write for number 3. We've got 6 and 6,371 10,000ths. Okay? This would be 6 and 6,371 10,000ths. Okay? All right. Number 5. This is that equivalent decimal one. So if I have this decimal, some equivalent decimals to this one would be, I could take off both of these zeros and it would mean the exact same thing. So I could write 3.7. I could also write 3.70. Or I could add more zeros after the end. I could add as many as I wanted. For your number 5 blank on your slide today, I want you to write these first 2 to get credit. Okay? So this would be 3 and 7/10. This would be 3 and 70 hundredths. This one, let's see, we go, if I go back to my little chart here, I'm going 5 places after the decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 100,000ths. So I've got 3 and 70 100,000ths. So if I were you, for my assignment today, I would take that math notebook that we have in our binder, and I would draw out a label for you. So when you're looking at your numbers today, you can say, okay, I'm going 3 places after the decimal. This is the label that I need. Or I'm going 5 places after the decimal. This is the label I need. That way, you're a little bit more familiar and you don't have to keep going back to this video and finding this spot that we're talking about. So make sure you have these 3 numbers in their spots on your slide and then complete the rest of today's assignment. There is an extra credit opportunity, so I highly recommend that you go for that. And other than that, guys, if you have any questions for me at all, we're going to talk about this in small groups this week. So just do your best to complete the assignment, and we will have a little activity that we talk about it in small groups, whether you see me Monday or Tuesday. And then if you still have questions or you don't get to see me today, make sure you log on to those office hours with me or Mr. Jackson, or you shoot me an email and we can find a time to meet one-on-one. Peace out, friends.